Many times in life we have no urgent need to sell, like the widow who desperately needed to sell her house, but we have an urgent need to buy. Let us imagine we are the purchasing manager at a film distributor. So we have a budget, and perhaps it is a large one, and we have lots of money to spend. Would it be smart of us to show all our cards to the first supplier and be ready to buy, like the excited man who had discovered the home of his childhood and was willing to pay a large sum of money for it? No. The ideal situation is one in which competition is encouraged, but in the opposite direction to the one we've just seen in the case of auctions. Now we must attract many potential sellers of a product for which there is only one buyer. So, if there are many potential sellers, because, for instance, I have published an invitation to tender, General Motors needs 100,000 brake units, and suppliers able to meet certain conditions and technical specifications are invited to submit their bids by such and such a date in December. And then hundreds of subcontractors or suppliers get down to work. Each company has its own valuations, and since the goal of each is to obtain the business, the suppliers pull out all the stops to get higher quality, lower priced products. So, let us suppose one is willing to sell starting at 100, another starting at 120, another starting at 150, another starting at 200, and another starting at 250. A sort of auction takes place, but in the opposite direction. It is the sellers who compete among themselves to win the contract by lowering the price. So, BE says, "Listen, I'll sell it to you for 250. And initially, A thinks, "Hey, what luck! I was willing to pay up to 300. And right from the start, I'm going to be able to buy the horse, the good, the house, or whatever it is for only 250. But before the deal closes at 250, BD, who has a greater capacity to make exchanges as a seller, says, No, I'll sell it to you for less, for 220. But before the deal closes at 220, BC says, No, I'll sell it to you for 170. And before, No, I'll sell it to you for 130. And everybody is outbid. Finally, before the deal closes at 130, BA says, I'll sell it to you for 110. Thus, dear students, if there is competition among sellers from the outset, the price will lie in a range between the valuation of the eventual seller, 100. The sale will not occur at a price lower than 100. That is the lower limit. The seller sets the lower limit of the sale at 100 monetary units, and the upper limit is the subjective valuation of the outbid seller with the greatest capacity to make exchanges who is willing to sell for the lowest amount. The valuation of the buyer is irrelevant. So, if I am Richard Gere and I drive up in my Lotus to the corner in Beverly Hills, and I feel like a roll in the hay, as they say, and I don't want to be taken advantage of, what must I do? Well, go somewhere where there are lots of girls and say, Okay, girls, who'd like to come home with me tonight? Who will offer me the best price? And there will be a downward auction. I will for 300. And another girl will say, No, 250. And the one next to her, 200. And the most desperate girl, 100. And in the end, 50. All right, get in. And if the product makes no difference to me, and I just want to save money, then maybe for $25 I can pull it off. Notice that sometimes competition exists among buyers, as in an auction, and sometimes it exists among sellers. For this to occur, we need an institutional setting in which people are familiar with bidding. Institutional settings vary considerably. There is a constellation of possibilities. There are auction rooms, where a very serious man holds a gavel and asks, Who'll give the most? A corner filled with offerers, with girls like Julia Roberts, is also an institutional setting. Another institutional setting is a disco. A disco is a market. It is a market for guys and girls, and each goes to see what will happen. It is a market. Supply and demand. Yes. Another institutional setting is, for example, the resale market. I'm very absent-minded, and when I go to the movies, I'm always late, and the tickets are always sold out. So I ask, has anybody got an extra ticket to sell? And if I wait a little while, until the movie starts, try this exercise for yourselves, and you will see that if there are people selling extra tickets, the price automatically begins to drop right before the movie starts. The same thing happens at bullfights. I'm just very awkward, and I always show up with the money, and since I don't want to stand there, I am the typical clumsy buyer. I'm this guy who is willing to pay up to 300 and closes the deal at 250, so he doesn't have to wait for the others. But if I waited, the price would certainly go down to here. They always get it out of me, because what I want is to... Look, Vargas is laughing, because Vargas is really hard up, and so he negotiates like a good German, until... But I don't negotiate at all, and they always take advantage of me. Well, I let them do it. To here, to about here. If I waited even a little, competition between resellers would push the price down, especially if the show is about to start. So when you are purchasing managers and you have to buy something, make sure there are plenty of potential sellers, okay? Because the price will fall as if by magic, without your doing anything. Another sales-related institutional setting. If you want to buy something, perhaps a Christmas gift, or ladies, a dress, etc., are you going to go into the first store you find it in and buy it? No, you've got to shop around a little. What do? Well, we look around in one store, and then in another, and then in another. If we're going to buy a car, we do not place an ad that says, "I wish to purchase a car. Let the downward auction begin." No. We might visit the Renault dealership in the Vicalvaro district, or another dealership, and if we have already chosen the car, if we've thought, "I really like this one," we might say, "You know, the other dealership has offered me easier payment terms at no interest, and with the radio thrown in." Maybe it's a lie. Maybe only 2 of the 3 things are true. And then the salesman might say, "Well, we can't go that far, but I'll give you a call." And then we go to another dealership, and in the end, since there are 5 or 6 competing with each other, we will get a better deal, simply because there is competition among sellers. It mainly benefits consumers that there be a large number of potential sellers in the market who want to close a deal, because then, other things being equal, they will provide a higher quality product, or a lower price, or both at once.